Oh, wow, this is awesome. Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Sorry, I was chilling on VR or the metaverse. But this is Startup Brothers, episode 9. I'm brother Trace. This is brother Max.
Two, Max?
Yep. And today we wanted to talk about kind of moonshots. We always talk about back to basics and all the fun startup stuff, which is kind of where this leads us. And as a background, I'm the angel investor for the last decade or so, a few different startups. Max is the current founder, gives us insight.
CEO, founder, Peel Away Labs, insight of logistics, manufacturing, CPG.
Exactly. So he has the inside street knowledge, boots on the ground.
Yeah.
These are ears to the wall, letting us know what's going on. And so we'll talk about the startup side after. What I want to talk about is this. This is the Meta device. We have it. We played poker before, but
really fun.
we actually got to go find this in the closet and dust it off. And so earnings season, when you get all the fun facts, Facebook, now Meta, lost $13.7 billion last year on this. What did they get out of it? They acquired probably a dozen companies. They're being sued by the FTC for buying a workout company. I know Max used to work out a lot in VR.
I used to break a sweat.
Yeah. It was actually phenomenal. You did your boxing.
Yeah, it was so much fun. These things are actually awesome. It's just how practical is it? And is my real life as bad as, that I need to put one of these on 24/7? To me, it's a 3-hour day, 3 hours a week maximum. And, maybe for education purposes in the future, but, can you imagine if Babe Ruth had one of these back in the day?
Right? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The Babe. And so this is VR. Whatever you want to call it, that's fine. And I kind of brought this up and wanted to talk about it because John Carmack, if you don't know him, he was the founder of id. id Games was Doom. Yeah. Everyone should know Doom if you're a gamer. The original, FPS. And he was just saying he just watched an entire movie with his wife on this. And that's exactly what it's for. And for $500, this device is amazing and compact. The one we had before this at our house was the Samsung. And I had to get a supercomputer, like a gaming computer. I had to set up the rigs around us so it could see us. And that probably lasted, I don't know, about a month of really trying hard to set that up.
We played the cyber games,
we
did some paintball.
Right. And so all these companies tried. They all followed. VR was trendy a few years ago. And you know what? I played some poker. Yeah. Max and I played. There was a game called Rec Room. It's VC backed, very successful. And then there's the lightsabers, the beam saber. But these are what we call moonshot ideas, right? This was started as a Kickstarter initially, acquired for $2 billion. Palmer Luckey, he left Meta. Right. That was Oculus. Then it was bought for $2 billion. But Zuck, give him credit. He bought Instagram for $1 billion, worth hundreds of billions. He bought WhatsApp for $19 billion, worth hundreds of billions. He bought this for $2 billion, lost probably, $20 billion on it. So, oh well.
Spent more on VR than we spent on the first shuttle going to the moon. He really tried. Right. He really wanted to work. And it doesn't mean it's not working. It's just the third iteration. Right. It might just take 12.
Right. And there's more technology in here than what took Armstrong to the moon. That's the most amazing thing. And same with your iPhone as well.
They spent more building it. It's insane how much money you could burn on what?
Right. And that was a public company at the time worth $1 trillion, now only worth about $500 million after tanking. But they spent so much money, which you can't do as a public company. They have quarterlies. And so innovation is generally stifled at the public level, which is why we invest in startups. They're fast. They're iterative. They can break things, fail fast, as we always say. And you know what? The last, not 2022, everything before that, the last 3 years before that was the pinnacle of moonshots. We were so bored with another SaaS company, another enterprise company. They're sure, let's go to space. So we're great, we'll do some refueling in space. We'll do some slingshot technology. We'll do some beaming.
What's another technology? it was practical. Why did we get it in the first place? Let's talk about why we actually got it. Yes, we love high-tech gadgets and we love playing with new toys, but we got it during the pandemic when we couldn't see each other. So this was us seeing each other. I sat next to you in the virtual world talking normal.
Ready Player One, right.
Playing poker, laughing. So we couldn't do that. And so this was fun. We invited some friends to come. They had their own version of the headsets. And there was one point where they were hard to get.
They were out of stock, sold out.
But it reminds me of the trend. We have a MakerBot. I think I used it once. It's one of those things that sounded really, really cool at the time, and I don't know who made it sound cool because it's really
my son's food thing kind of looks like it was 3D printed.
Yeah. So these trends are real. They kick in real fast, and these massive companies could spend more money than anyone on planet Earth to force it on people to become a reality.
Yeah. So, speaking of MakerBot, but I'm a geek and love my New York Tech history somewhere in the back of my fantastical brain. So, the founder of MakerBot was this guy, Bree Pettis, and he had 3D printing for years in New York City. We would all see him. He would go to events. He'd sit there with like a booth and this little box, and he'd just like print out these little things. Is it really like 3D printing, or is it more just 2D layering? However you want to brand it. But if you look at his history, he tried for years to raise capital and no one would invest. But then everyone's like, maybe there is something here. Got funded with a lot of VC capital and then got acquired for a few $100 million. How the company is doing now, as Max says, kind of like trendy, where like at least COVID kicked in a lot of stuff. And I have a lot of things to say about like the Clubhouses of the world. And all these other ones that got funded because we weren't sure it was the new normal. The world was freaking out, but there was no business to it. And that's fine. Sometimes making money gets in the way, but there are trends that come and go really fast. So in the case of like, great, you have your VR. That's always been around. It's fun. Is it for sales? Is it for entertainment? And right, as Max said, when you spend only 3 hours a week on it, okay, not bad. We're on the phone for...
to build a business. Right. And what was the trend before VR? Remember the 3D TV? We went to CES. It was 3 years in a row. Not the the virtual reality 3D, put some goggles on.
Yeah.
And that should have gave everybody imprint of we're not putting anything on their faces to distort reality, unfortunately. That was where we should have just said, maybe this is a precursor to VR not being the joyful fun that they think it's going to be in the practicality. But from my understanding, Apple, and I've been saying this for a while, augmented reality. That's where, you see they put the goggles on in the superhero movies and they see things beyond. It's almost like Iron Man. You know how he sees things? But
Jarvis, your heads-up display, your HUD.
That is something I believe in. We'll see. You got to see it to believe it and use it to believe it. But if I had to choose one, I'd point at that one.
And we've seen some of those. And the closest we got was the Pokemon Go, right? We've had this big idea, and the closest thing that gets us to AR is Pokemon, right? I was just talking about this with Natasha. We were talking about Pokemon Go, and you'd see this camp of people walking around, and they almost got hit by cars. Yeah. And huge fad, amazing. And it got you to interact with the real world. Like you had to go to Starbucks and be the club champion. So that's where they get the longevity, because very similar to crypto, which I still think is a fad in terms of like, we need NFTs, we need tokens, we need all this stuff. Like, okay, do we really need it? Like if you have to question it, right? Yeah. But gaming, I've seen some pitches for some gaming NFTs and some stuff like that. We actually have ownership, and I played EverQuest. So did Max. And we're like, cool, I own this. This is mine. I mean, I own a few NFTs that have some gaming, and maybe they'll launch someday. 99% haven't, and I'll take an L on those. Roadmaps. And so, right, it's longevity. We always say, like, this was a 7-year overnight success, right? If someone promises you something today, like it's going to be the best, too good to be true. Not going to happen. It takes years. Right.
But you have to educate the customers, right? Same thing with my products. I invented something so simple, but it's new. It's prideful, as cool as it is.
Busy.
Literally invent something new. You have to take an old habit, a traditional way people have been doing things for years and years, if not decades. They have to change their reality, change their habits. And we all know changing habits is incredibly hard. We all want to go green. We all want to go organic, but it is so hard. It's not as simple. There's friction. There's bumps. You know what? I'll just throw it away.
Right. And then you have the news cycle. So there's something new every day. So with our backgrounds like marketing and PR, just getting like 1% of your mind share of your thought. And I'm like, oh, maybe I will buy this. And you have 10 seconds to get someone's attention. Be like, okay, I will buy that, right? Are you like a impulse purchase, or are you something like a car seat that I love my wife for, that she spends hours because it's something that like we will own. It's expensive. It's about safety. And so you would choose the best. So the company puts out all the articles. They get their reviews. They put the compares out on there. I'm not going to do a huge compare for like what NFT or what sheets or something else.
NFTs were funny. You know, that was one of the things where we went against our gut and our instincts.
Right.
When you start hearing people talking about this is the best utility of all utilities, and the utility is its utility, and that's the best utility. And when you buy it, you get part of that utility. And so we all went against our gut, and that's what really, really hurt people, because when people go against their gut, there's going to be people that take advantage. And how many rug pulls have there been?
FOMO.
The FOMO. I even bought stupid NFTs, and I couldn't
help it.
Looked at them. I couldn't help it. I felt left out. People were talking about them, and people were making money. But it's the same thing as everything in life. There's always very few people making money during the first 365 days. You know, in the long run, hopefully people end up making money somewhat.
Depending when you buy into it.
But just like anything, the first social networks, the first leagues, the first anything, people exploit it.
You have to learn. You have to test and be like, aha, right? So there's all these articles coming out now. It's like, hey, the millennials actually are having a hard time, right? It's like I graduated 2010, like at the end of the great financial crisis. So I basically had a 12-year, most of my career, a bull market. Everything just went up and to the right. No one questioned anything. And as long as it's going up to the right, okay, things are working. And so that's where like the moonshots come in. Coming full circle on my thought is we funded a lot of stuff, VCs, and we would meet a lot of companies and be like, okay, this is interesting. You raised from these people. Like, why did you raise? And there's the saying, like, even like a turkey can fly in a stiff wind. So bless their heart. And I want to find this out. I tweeted, I was like, great. Probably way too many companies got funding that normally or shouldn't have gotten funding. Yeah. We can debate because my friends invest in things that I don't like. I invest in things they don't like. But there are certain companies we can agree that are just like, okay, that's an oddball. And you're like, great, I have some extra money. I've already invested in these companies. I'm already up like 5-10x. So like, F it. Like, let's see if this works. It's a moonshot. It's kind of binary. If it doesn't work, oh, well, if it works, awesome.
But that's the scary part. And that's obviously the point of early investing. But in a startup, I always said in the last podcast, it has to be good enough. And then the customer has to tell you that it's good enough. And I'm always the person to tell you, the customer is not specifically always right. I think that's something
fully agreed.
Steve Jobs used to say. He goes, the customer doesn't even know what I'm building. So how is he or she or they, all of them, supposed to know what their expectations are? They don't even know what their own expectations are because I haven't even built it yet or even showed you yet. So, building something new is terrifying. And if you could get people to grip onto it sooner rather than later, brilliant. But it will take, I think, the cycle is the 7 to 11 years. And that's the same game that you guys play in the startup world. And that's the same game that I play. I've been doing this for 7-8 years. And now we get our partnerships that we've been trying to get. Now we have the customers needing our products. But if I had this success 7 years ago, I would have been in a much, just better place as a person and financially and all the above. But it's about the longevity. It's about making it through these hurdles and then the exponential, world circumstances, which seems like there's always some funny stuff going on at all times.
Right. There's the macro things you can't control.
There's always been wars. There's always been conflicts. There's always been divide. But it seems like innovation itself continues regardless.
Right. Well said. And this is why we always spoke and we're like, it will happen again one day. Us wise investors, like the best and grittiest entrepreneurs came out of the financial crisis. And until you're in it, you don't understand it, which is what everyone's going through now. We have losses, we have layoffs, there's no funding. And you're like, wait, let me look at this balance sheet again. Let me actually understand that I can't fill this red loss hole with just more VC funding because I have growth. So that's where the back to basics comes. And I do believe that there will be some innovation being stifled because we're pulling back. We're like, that's too risky. I need something that makes money, something I understand, some unit economics. So it's like, if you want to shoot something into space, that's cool. But like, if you're just going to slingshot it, maybe like 2021, that sounded pretty cool. You want to slingshot something really fast? Okay, cool. 22, 23, no, you're going to need some like jet propulsion and show me how this gets done and probably have a little bit more traction before I invest in you.
No, I always wondered, the fastest plane in the world, the Blackbird, was built in
SR-71.
Built in 1960s.
Yeah.
Who would have thought 60 years ago was the fastest plane? We can't make anything faster. But the answer is, I asked somebody, the answer is yes, we can make things faster.
Right.
But is it practical and is there a market for it? And does fast actually matter? Because fast back then was stealth. And that was the original purpose for this technology. But from my understanding, we could go as fast as a snail and still be stealth these days. And I'm sure the government and DAPA, whatever those agencies are way beyond our years of things that we believe and think we know. And sci-fi, what we thought. I know our parents thought they'd be flying cars by 2020. When they were
so good. There are no flying cars. People are so bad at driving, and no one would cover insurance. I spoke to some people at car companies. I'm happy there are no flying cars.
The cars still get 18 miles a gallon. It's 2023. What is going on? But a lot of it's dictated by the people at the top, the bobbies, the people. We don't have high-speed trains for certain reasons. We don't
infrastructure.
This, but that also dictates what we adopt in ourselves, right? In our everyday lives. So, I've learned keep it simple. If it's cool, use it. If it's awesome, you use it once.
Yep.
And whatever our normal everyday usage of technology. I used to be on top of the new iPhone every single time, but who cares?
Mine's 2 years old. It's getting a little slow, so I might have to update it. But like perceived obsolescence, I'm like, why is this being slow? I got a new computer and like it loads slowly. I'm like, it's new. Like, did I break it? But to your point, the the 71 Blackbird, 1966. Jump jet technology. They basically invented like a way of bringing the air, compressing it, so the faster it went, the faster it went. And as your point said, right, stealth technology can go really fast and be the fastest, but word of wisdom, be smart fast, right? Because if you're the fastest, but I can detect you, I caught you. But if you're slightly slower, but stealth, then you can get by. So speed doesn't always win. We always were taught first mover advantage. Okay, maybe first mover isn't always the best. And also these days, there's very few first movers. When we meet a company, every single person's the first and only to do everything. And if you actually are, it's kind of scary. Like, why hasn't someone done this before? Or they weren't public about it, and it failed miserably, right? It's like, oh crap, you actually came up with something unique. Now I'm a little scared that I actually don't know anything about this. I haven't seen anything.
There's instances more and more because people are so freaking smart these days where they could sell shit on a stick and still make a multi-million-dollar business out of it. A lot of, I used to joke around, there's probably another Michael Jordan out there, but he got hurt. You know what I mean? So I've seen the silliest companies crush it. And the truth is once you start digging down a little more, when it comes to an inventory-intensive business, you could do 30, 40, 50 million in sales, and it almost doesn't matter. I know some founders that take less of a salary than me because they're just so intense on cash flow, inventory with thin margins. And that really, really is not a fun business to run. You might be doing $30 million in sales, but if you don't retain those customers and acquire new ones real quick.
Yep.
And then what we discussed last time is everybody keeps coming out with new products to acquire new customers, but those are new customers. Those are customers that either
don't know you.
Realm of what your original business was, but now you have to iterate and change your mindset for these new customers. Getting your product into Walmart is cool, but if you were, a high-end direct-to-consumer product, you might not understand or speak the language of a Walmart customer.
Yep.
So, and then the inventory, you have to order it 90 days in advance, and then you have to have 90 days on the ground, and then they don't pay you for 90 days. You're out of cash for 180 days. I learned this the fun, hard way. Luckily, we came out of it with a few battle wounds, but a great learning experience. But, these big box retailers don't make their money per se on your inventory selling through them. When I worked with another W retailer, they make money on slotting fees, and they could care less because guess what? They'll fill that slot again, and that's usually where they make their money.
There's another founder, another company who wants that piece.
And how many protein cookies are there? But some are successful, and some have wonderful, great stories, and end up being acquired. From my understanding, Kind Bar, he cashed out real nice, and the XR bar, but that was a marketing play where they showed you the 3 ingredients bold right on the front. So a lot of these marketing plays, you don't have to come up with anything specifically new.
Right. Kind Bar, $5 billion. RX was what, 800 million? I think RX is disgusting. Kind Bar is just crammed together like sugary nuts and stuff. But you know what? It is what's cool at the time. Like Celsius, the drink. I think Pepsi just bought like a third or something of them, valued at a few billion. Look, it's just sugar water. But you know what? They sold it. They built a brand. And like you go and you look at the shelf and you're like, I want that one. You know what? That's valuable to a company. They have to buy customers.
Death Water. They're mind-bogglingly amazing when it comes to marketing and PR and, cult following almost. To me, it tastes like water in a gin.
That too.
Right? Liquid death. And I commend them. I'm not bashing them at all.
Everybody, give them all the credit. They literally just sell cool water if you don't want to drink. And instead of holding a Poland Spring, you hold Liquid Death. And we saw and met with one of their investors probably 2 years ago. They were doing, I don't know, like maybe 10 million in revenue. It was a high-ish valuation because they were growing fast. And I was like, oh, look, it's a good business. I don't care for it. It's selling water. Like I do tech stuff, but at the end of the day, we're in the exit business. So can this keep growing? And will like a PepsiCo or Coca-Cola, because there's only 8 brands in the world that own everything. Type in Google brands that own everything. You're going to see Nestle, Mars, Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Frito-Lay. Like it's all like 8 companies. You know what? And if you're buying something that they don't own, that means you're taking away from their sales. So they'll buy those companies. It's very turf oriented. And that's also what we invest in. You can take away from their sales. That means they have to buy you. They have to buy you. Look like a piece of cheese.
Yeah, no, I've learned your business is not your baby. Your business is being built to be acquired. I had to learn that mindset a little deeper into my career, of course. But build a business to be sold. I'm sorry. I don't care about your emotions because there is no crying in baseball.
I'm not in it to make money.
Yeah, you are.
Hey, with a straight face.
When somebody gives you the value that you're looking for, or even in these times, how many founders just want to quit and just call it quits and move on with their lives and just get it?
I know so many. I wish they could, but they feel bad. They feel like they're laying down their investors. Which, you know what? We took the risk. You lose the money. Like we understand that, but then friends and family, like it's your life for the last few years. It's all you talked about. It's all you know. And what do you do when you're done? I was lost a little bit after like my first or second start. I'd be like, step out and like have an existential life crisis of like, this is all I've done, all I know.
I mean, you're talking to somebody who started his business in college, right? And you've been by my side the whole time, and you have obviously seen the maturity of me. Thank you. But beyond that, if I had this maturity and raised this capital then, as I mentioned in the last podcast, it'd be a whole different. It'd be the same business, but it'd be a different arena. You just play in a smarter level, and we work. We were talking about this before. We work in days in the startup world because they're so important, and the runway's maximum. We all bullshit it 18 months because we know that's what everybody wants to hear. But we were talking about the publicly traded companies. Screw the analysts telling us what we should achieve in 3 months.
You missed it by a penny.
You missed it by a penny, but you're building businesses that are a year out.
Years out, right? They make acquisitions to increase their revenue like 3 years out.
And the fact that you always have to be dramatically profitable. You have to be dramatically efficient. You're allowed to be inefficient on purpose. You're allowed to take your time on purpose. If you're one of these larger publicly traded companies, and I think this is one of the toxic things that got VCs and startups, that you have to continue to grow. Stop. Yep. What if I don't want to grow? What if I'm happy right where I am as these massive companies? And what does growth actually mean by the end of the day? There's probably more bad than good when it comes to needing and having to be pressured to grow.
Before rates went up, the growth was all that mattered because you can just keep losing money and borrowing. And it's interesting, right? It's kind of ironic from an analyst standpoint. Like, you want the analyst to be wrong. Like, their job is to predict it. If you hit their numbers, that's bad. If you beat it, you basically said you were wrong and you're bad at your job. But artificially, it should be a little bit lower. But that's a head twister. So to your point, though, of like innovation being stifled, we know it. There was like the thing called the long-term stock exchange. I don't know how well it's doing, Eric Ries and companies. The idea is sound, where you buy stock and you can't sell it for a certain amount of time. But the longer you hold it, the more voting power you get because you vote with your confidence of I'm holding for the long term. And so this was a stick it to like the financial industry. Zuck said, look, I've given you 10 years of amazing results. I IPO'd at 40 and then I went to like 400. So like, you're welcome. And I have to take a moonshot. Our ad business, he saw the future with his Instagrams and acquisitions. He acquired like 100 companies and he saw the future and said, I have to burn cash. I'm not a startup anymore. You want this to continually go up? I need new revenue streams. Next big thing is VR. Then they call it the metaverse because it's the same thing, right? So that's just being up to date with current times. But he tried. And
he changed the name of the business to complement.
Right, he rebranded because that's what the industry wanted. So they're like, oh, he's going for it. It's very specific and timely, but just admitted defeat. And it's kind of sad because he's one of the greatest entrepreneurs in history and lost last year $13.7 billion. I'm like, how do you spend that much money? What is that? But still profitable on a, like, what? How much does he make? $13-15 billion a quarter. And so he has $40 billion in cash. He said, all right, fine. We're cutting all these divisions of all this deep tech. Fine. I tried. I'm going to go back and buy back $40 billion in stock. So you're welcome. Like, I tried.
And then there's some things that maybe will stick, right? The AI, the new AI, which is, the old metaverse, all those stocks now are skyrocketing just like those metaverse stocks. But the truth is, that's also something I use 3 hours a week. But the 3 hours is more productive to helping
efficiency
in my business. I don't know how else to put it. One is for entertainment. This is all entertainment. And the coolest part is you can watch IMAX. I mean, I don't know if you've ever used one of these, whoever's listening, but it is awesome. Let's be real.
It works. It really is
awesome. But it's just
going to use it.
I'm going to use it. I need to see my loved one next to me. I need to see the kids running around. It's not as practical as it was meant to be. And also the cool part is it's almost augmented. The new one, we could see outside of the glasses. It is true.
You can see like black and white. It was so cool. I could walk around with it, which is dangerous. That was to your point about like 3D TVs. So you had to put on glasses. You couldn't look at your phone because it was polarized. So it was like, what's going on? If you move, you get dizzy. But they finally perfected it that I can walk around with this. So like, it's not dangerous. And the coolest thing when you set up the perimeter around you and you get close to it, like it vibes, it like shows, and you're like, this is really cool. So it is amazing technology.
But
Oof.
it's like I just was walking on. I met you at dinner the other night. There was a place next door where they turned the virtual reality into a game where you ever see people sprinting as fast as they can, but they're not actually moving. That was what it's for. It's almost like an amusement park at this point. It's the new version of amusement park, and it's so real. We've all seen those, those videos where people are screaming as if they're falling off.
The video, he's running.
And until you take the goggles off, the guy's sweating. And it is true. It is
These zombies. They're coming.
It is a mind.
Oh, when you put it on and you're on that piece of wood, and then you're at the top of the Empire State Building, you're on a plank. You know you're not there, but you don't know that you're not there.
The human mind. It actually shows you the human mind is fascinating beyond your imagination, because until you try these new things and put your brain into a new world, you just cover up your eyes. Nothing else matters. Reality almost doesn't matter. But we've always had Second Life. We've always had, EverQuest of the world. And I remember we used to play so much EverQuest. I felt like I was in the damn game, to be honest. I felt like I had goggles on. I was in such tunnel vision. My mind
I was a dark elf mage, and I had the little pet that would go out and fight for me. Like, that's all I knew. I was on raids.
I started hysterically crying because my character died or something. It was the end.
Yeah, I wasn't going to talk about that. That was a tough time. Yeah, and then not only did you die, but you froze and you went up into like a high area and you couldn't get your stuff back.
Right? Oh my god! But the truth is I actually was telling people we were selling the original NFTs where we would sell
marketplace
things in the game on eBay, cash over here, given over there through like the token.
One platinum was worth like $1 in the real world.
Though. And this is 15, almost 20 years ago.
It was one of the biggest economies in the world at the time.
But what I've learned about like the NFTs and such, I always kept saying the gamers are going to win. The gamers are going to win because they're all just games.
Yep.
How are you going to compete against Midway, EA Sports and all these games, these real games? Everybody's trying to build their own little fantasy world game, but it looked like an early version of EverQuest from 20 years ago.
The gamers love it. They're the engaged, right? Like if they get into something, they're in it. Most people aren't those gamers.
I don't want to be in it. I'm trying to get away from it, and they're trying to get us back into it.
That's their job. They get paid to get us into it, right? We're busy. We're trying to do this, and they're just like, hey, let me in.
So the world has become an interesting place, but what has it become? It's all essentially come back to the basics.
Yep. So moonshots, there will be some of them. There will be less funding for them. Once we set a new base, a new foundation, then we'll build from there. Will it get crazy again? Yes. Yeah. Because we have short memories and we forget fast. And once we see people making money, we're just going to slowly go. But it went exponential, and then it came back down just as fast, right? So we will get back to it. Things will eventually get back to a new normal. There's no going back to where we were. But
this is good for
now all these people. Right.
We've all lost a fortune here and there. Whatever fortune we accumulated over these bull markets. But
it's all about the friends we made along the way.
Oh, yeah. No, it's about the horrors that we learned along the way. And there was a lot of adrenaline. I had a good time. Remember all these NFT parties? Art Basel, people just spilling out Dom Perignon. They were just printing money at one point. But it all comes back down to basics. Do what your gut tells you to do. Learn as much as you can. Be financially literate. And go with your gut with a little risk. Opposed to risk gut.
Yeah,
pretty much. Good for the millennials. We technically lived through the longest war in U.S. history, but now we get to actually feel consequences of something that happened outside of our control. You just graduated college right at the end of the financial crisis, but you didn't get to really taste it because everything was going relatively up from there. But this is a great learning experience. I'm proud of all of us millennials for getting this far. I'll tell you that. So,
yeah, it's weird times. We made like 15 investments in 2021. We made 4 or 5 last year. We're gonna make one right in the next like few weeks, but it's just chill. Let's reflect. Let's help our companies. There are layoffs. There's no additional capital. So runway. That's all we care about right now, right? So that's what it is.
Margin.
Get that runway before you take off and moonshot, right? Right now, we're just on the tarmac.
We're in the margins business as a startup. You're in the exit business, and margins equal exit in our business plus customers. But it's gotten to the point where I'm down to keep my customers happy, keep me happy, and as we mentioned in the last one, let's make this runway last. Add an extra 8, 10, 15 months. But there is a runway in the startup game. Unless you put your own financial capital into these games or raise money from loans or debt, which is I'm a founder, I'm an inventor, somewhat of a marketer. I'm not a financial person to raise all this money and loans and debt. But you're also in the world where your founders are, and I raised 2 rounds where we're in the fundraising business, but now we get to use that energy somewhere else, and hopefully comes out practical and efficient and puts us in a better position. But you can't just stop running a business. It's very sad to say, and it's a bizarre feeling. You can't just wake up and say, screw it, not happening. There's infrastructure, there's people that you have on payroll, there's consultants, there's contracts, there's so many moving pieces in a business. And each moving piece and everything that touches and everything that moves needs to be greased up. And that grease is money, time, and energy. Everything. And if you could eliminate any of these pieces, amazing. Do it without affecting your efficiency, or do it practically where it affects your efficiency, but your margins go up. And then, just to end it, keep your relationships good. If you've gotten this far, keep your network close, keep the relationships sweet, because they will help you in the long run. Me and my manufacturers, they are helping me. We don't have to get into specific reasons, but they help me now. And that help, give me another 16 months is going to be astronomical to what my business needed. It needed this. And it's really, really going to help us to get through these hard times, because it's still hard times. I don't want to make it seem like it's easy. It's much easier than it was before. Over the past 2 years, so you what is it? You're still treading water, but you're not. You have a scuba dive. You have a funnel
snorkel,
a snorkel, but it's a very thin snorkel. So it's about consistency. Look how old this gentleman is. He just kept playing, and then he hit his best. In basketball, the older you get, you used to drive to the hole, but now you get better at threes. You change your game. You get smarter and faster.
Yep. The game changes
as you get older, but then the game's rules change right around you. So, Startup Brothers, we'll be here. If anybody needs any advice from starter to founder to investor to exiter,
we're here.
We're here for all y'all.
All right. See y'all later.
Peace.